And first of all, Minister, can I say that I agree with a lot of the proposals contained in this finance bill. In the current context, the IMF has told countries that can borrow that they should borrow to provide a safety net for citizens and for business. So in that context, Minister, I would say that borrowing is not only necessary, it is actually prudent. Now, any finance bill has to provide a safety net for those who need it, and it has to fund essential services and social services, as well as providing supports and investments to business sectors, to businesses indeed in all sectors. It has to take into account the impact of Brexit, and it has to ensure that our healthcare system can work at full capacity for both COVID and non-COVID healthcare requirements. And as well as being financed by borrowing, it should also be financed by a progressive tax system. And I think on many of those requirements, this finance bill delivers. But, Minister, there are gaps. There are some sectors, essential sectors, that have been left out or certainly not adequately supported. Here I mention early childcare services, an absolute essential service. The rest of the economy cannot function without quality childcare that is accessible and affordable, and more supports are needed to put this sector on a firm footing. Now, Minister, I've spoken of this before, but I really want to speak about it again because it's so important. Just as childcare is an essential service, family carers and their work is simply indispensable. Our society couldn't function without family carers. Our health system would be overrun and our social welfare system would collapse. And yet it's incredible to say, but true, that carers are worse off after this budget than they were before. Now, first of all, while there is a €150 increase in the carer support grant, most carers don't receive this grant, and for those who do, it will not be in place until July 21st. Also, the fuel allowance has been increased, but carers' allowance is not a qualifying payment for the fuel allowance. So most family carers, again, will not receive it. And we all know the extra expense in heating homes when you're caring for somebody. Also, while I am happy to say that there was 5 million additional home help hours, home care hours, and that's absolutely crucial, that still has to be taken in the context that only 40% or at most 50%, and some places less, of day services for adults with disability have not been reinstated. Minister, the income disregard for carers' allowance, because it is means tested, has not increased in 13 years. And I know most people will not believe this, but actually carers' allowance was worth a little bit more in 2011 than it is now. And I'm not talking about taking inflation into account. I'm talking about hard cash. Another area that I want to draw your attention to is the Employment Wage Subsidy Scheme. A very good scheme, but it needs to be revised because it's a cliff edge for some businesses. If the turnover is down 30%, then you can access that scheme. But if your turnover is down 25% or 15% or 28%, you can't access it. And I think a more graduated approach would be important, so that, for example, if your business was down between 20 and 30%, you would get the €200, between 10 and 20%, that there would be a graduated response. Because, Minister, the truth also is that if a business's turnover is down 25%, it's really not in their interest to try to push it up, because if they close for an extra day, their turnover will be down by more than 30%, and that's not good for the business or for the economy or for the workers. So we need to get rid of that cliff edge. A good scheme, just nuance how you manage it. Another area where I disagree with your policy is that I believe the highest level of the PUP payment at $350 should have been maintained. Graduated, yes, but the highest level should not have been brought back to $300. Because I think, Minister, we can't forget that those accessing the PUP have outgoings based on their previous income, on rent, on rates, on cost of childcare, on food, basically on living. And while I know that €350 won't allow them to continue to live in that way, nonetheless, that €50 a week cut is really heartbreaking for many people. And remember, this money will be spent on food in local businesses, so it will circulate locally, and some of it will make its way back to the tax coffers through VAT, etc. And in that context, I want to re-echo the words of Deputy Eamon O'Keefe, who spoke earlier, and he said that, and this is not the fault of the government as such, it's the situation, but we need to do something about it, that we are creating a two-tier society. Many of us, and in that I include all in this House and many other houses, continue to receive our salaries, but many others, because sectors are closed or have collapsed, and often by order of government, and quite rightly, I support you on that, but many of those people, their income has significantly dropped, and that's one of the reasons why the upper level of the PUP payment should be $350, not $300. As I said, that €50 won't solve all the problems, but it might take the edge off some of it. And, you know, we're all in it together. Rings a bit hollow for people who see that cut in their PUP payment. So I'm asking you to please consider reinstating this, at least when we're on level 4 or level 5. Also around taxation of the PUP payment, Minister, I think we need clarity. Can you confirm that any payment under PUP was not taxable before July of this year, because it was classified as an urgent needs payment under Section 202 of the 2005 Welfare Consolidation Act. But it seems this was changed during summer in the Social Welfare COVID Amendment Bill, when the PUP was, and I think the Finance Bill has added it to the list of welfare payments, which means it's taxable. So first of all, we need clarity, and we need to be sure that there's a legal basis for what the government is claiming. But you're talking here about 600,000 people, and if it's taxable, Minister, some of those people are going to have tax bills. Now, this is my third time to raise this. I raised it back in July and I think in April or May. And I was told, look, the revenue is sorted, they'll work it out, etc. But remember, these people will have lost income, will be scrimping and saving, and the last thing they want next year or the year after that, when they still will not have caught up, the last thing they want is to be facing a tax bill or have their tax credits reduced. It's the very same thing at the end of the day. So that's something we need to clarify and that people need to be made aware of. 3 final points, very quickly. Young farmers. According to revenue, a young farmer is 35. So if you're buying a bit of land and you're over 35, you pay the stamp duty. You're not exempted. But according to the Department of Agriculture and the EU, young farmers are up to 40. That needs to be straightened out. Another issue around agriculture is, yes, you've rolled out a number of the schemes, but the new pilot reps programme, the money allocated is simply insufficient for the numbers that will be coming out of AOS and coming out of GLOS. You could be looking at 25,000 farmers, and I think it's 80 million allocated. Minister, it's no good for that. And while, yes, you've rolled over the other schemes, and that's good, this is a real problem. One other brief issue, Deputy McNamara, 20 seconds. Community businesses, community centres that generate income for the community, run by volunteers. I have spoken to many of them, and they have made application after application for some assistance to deal with ongoing costs. But if they're not open, providing a service at the moment, Minister, they're getting nothing. If you could look at that, please. Thank you.
Deputy Harkin.